Go ahead. I'll turn it inside out.
What is happening? Oh man, Juan, we got a lot to cover tonight, but welcome everybody. We are here live, living in Michigan, and today we're talking about interest rates. We're going to get into some nitty gritty here, but if you're tuning into us for the first time, my name is Eric Meldrum. We are the Living in Michigan team here with True Living Group here in Michigan, and I'm here with my trusted business partner and co-host, Mr. Juan Alcala. What's up?
What is up, y'all? Good evening. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. All the good stuff, right?
Yes. Merry Christmas. You know, I was just sending out BombBomb videos. So if anyone's watching that reached out to us from YouTube, you probably got a BombBomb video from me wishing you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year this year. So shout out to that. But we got a lot in store. So what we want to do today is really, kind of get into some of the weeds. We've had some really exciting news in real estate, and this has been heating things up a little bit. Been getting a lot more reach outs, a lot more calls, which is fantastic, right? The interest rates have dropped. So, a lot of people are like, hey, that's great. But what does that really mean for buyers and sellers in today's market? So we're going to talk a little bit more about that, as we get into this. And then we're also going to talk about some pending, things are circling around the Senate, talking about institutional investors and buying up single family homes. So this has been a hot topic, in the real estate industry, amongst other things. And then we got some outlooks for 2024 on how we think the real estate market is going to shake out. So if you're tuning into us for the first time, drop it in the comments below. We'd love to know where you're watching from. We want these lives to be interactive, with you guys. So if you do have questions, drop those in the comments below. We'd love to answer those on the live today and really get into some of the nitty gritty about what's going on in the real estate market here in Southeast Michigan. And if you are going to be moving here, it's really imperative that specifically on what's going on here. So, we're going to kick things off. Interest rates are, what are they at right now, Juan? 6.6%. We have all that information for you, but I'm just quizzing Juan.
Yeah. We are right in the zone right now of becoming happy again, which is good news. They round out today, according to Mortgage News Daily, right at 6.64%. So good news there for sure. 30-year FHA is coming in at 6.10, getting much closer to those fives, man. Whew, exciting times.
Yeah, if you're getting a 15-year fix, you can get right down to 6.05%.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and if you're buying down rates, you can definitely win on this too. And that's another strategy we've talked about before, but I always want to make sure we dial that in. So a rate buy down is when you're able to, whether you get it through concessions, either you or the seller or even your mortgage company can pay down your interest rate points. And what I mean by that is a point is 1 percentage point of the loan amount. That's where things I remember the first time I heard that when I bought my first house when I was 24, and they're like, you buy down points. I was like, what does that mean? They're like, you get to buy down 1%. And in my mind, I thought they meant I would be getting 1 full point off the interest rate.
Yeah, one percentage point, right? It's like, that's great. I'm going from 6 to 5%. That's awesome.
That's what I thought too. I was like, yeah, let me sign me up, dude. Let me buy those, because my first house is $135,000 or something like that. Right. And so I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then I bought my point, which was 1 full percentage point of the loan amount, which on that house was like $115,000. So
basis point. Like
yes,
that's the key. What's a
missed
basis
that.
point?
Yeah. They didn't explain that to me, and I wasn't smart enough to understand what it like. I wasn't there yet in my life cycle, right? So like here I was, I spent $1,500 thinking I was going to go from at that point 10.5. My interest rate was 10.5% in 2004. So I thought I was going from 10.5 to 9.5. Turns out I was going from 10.5 to 10.25. So I didn't get it. So I want to make sure you guys understand when we talk about buying down points. That's what they're referring to. Typically, to buy down a full point, it could cost as much as 4 percentage points of the loan, 3 to 4. It really depends on the market. So that is fluid and dynamic as well. But you can drive down the interest rate, and your mortgage payment, most importantly, is what we're getting at.
Yeah, and there's really a diminishing return on going super high on those type of things. Like if there is, an opportunity to ask the seller, right, or you're just doing that out of your pocket, right? The money always comes from somewhere. Either it's coming from the seller or it's coming from your pocket to buy down that rate. There's a point of diminishing return on that. So I just want you guys to know about that as you look at these things, because it doesn't make sense sometimes to throw a bunch of cash at it and buy the interest rate down. It might just be more beneficial to get that little bit basis points, lower the interest rate, and then look at opportunities down the road to refinance. But we're living in this world right now and hovering right around the 6%. So just for perspective, on this, and it's always great to have the perspective on where we've been and how we got here. Right, we went through a whole entire year in 2023 of the raising the interest rate, right, raising the Fed rate, and that has had an effect on all rates, whether it's mortgage rates, auto loans, credit card rates. That's effectively, the Fed raising the interest rate on what people can borrow money for, what banks can borrow money for at that rate, and then it trickles down to everything else in the economy. So that's set interest rates in the real estate industry for mortgages into highs of 8% this year, right? And they hovered somewhere right around 7, topping out at 8s, kind of the low 8s. And now we've seen a dramatic decrease, right, since the Fed said they were going to pause. And this is interesting because, interest rates actually started coming down before Jerome Powell announced that they were going to take a pause, and there may be interest rate decreases in 2024. So it was this weird, almost like we're looking into the future. Like somebody might have known this was coming, so it was really interesting to kind of watch this play out, but we're now to a point where interest rates are at 6.5%, and that's down pretty much a full percentage point, right? Full percentage point, not basis point in the interest rate. So what that's really done is caused a lot more affordability in the housing market. So we've been getting more reach outs. We've started to see the activity. We're even seeing more pendings in the market, right? So people who are taking this opportunity and said, "Hey, now is my time." Right? I finally see the light at the end of the tunnel that I've been waiting for, in 2023, and now is my time. Right? So this has caused a lot more buyers to get off the sideline and re-enter the market that were kind of waiting for this surge of interest rates to come down. Now, there's speculation that these interest rates could go even lower, right? They could go even lower. And, we have some predictions from Redfin and realtor.com that we're going to get into, here. We want to take a look at them. But that's always the speculation in real estate, right? Is are prices going to go down? Are interest rates going to go down? And ultimately, as a buyer or seller, you're asking yourself, like, when is the perfect time to enter the market? And Juan, been in the business a while, right? Like, is there ever a perfect time to buy your home?
Well, the short answer I think that you're trying to get to is no. I think that's the short answer. But
Did I tee that up too?
Yeah. But ultimately, Eric, the most appropriate question, and the one that we love to ask, is when is the right time for you? Because there definitely is a right time for you and a not right time for you as well. And these things are important as you look like, what is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? Right. So like, let me give just a short example. if you're planning on moving out of state in 3 years, buying a home today may not be the best decision for you, right? Unless you plan on holding on to that home infinitely, meaning that you're going to keep it. It's going to be part of your family planning, maybe even part of your estate planning, your wealth goals. Like, then absolutely buy the house today, because what we know is over time, real estate appreciates as an asset class. Does it have variations, ups and downs? Yes, but over time, especially over a 10-year time horizon, real estate has proven itself as an asset class. Over 20 years, real estate has proven itself over an asset class. So, it's like the old question about an oak tree, Eric. People always ask, when is the best time to plant an oak tree? Well, 100 years ago, right? But since that's not an option for us, maybe today is the best day. And I use that example because, if you're planning on moving on a state in 3 years, then it may not be the right time, because buying a home today, expecting to get a return in 3 years with the cost of sales, ownership, taxes, everything else, unless you see another incredible market like COVID, it's probably not ideal. But if you're planning on holding that home for at least 5 years, now it's definitely, it could be a great time to consider buying. So again, this is going to be specific to you and your needs. But owning real estate as a whole has proven itself over time and will serve you extremely well if you can look at on a long enough time horizon.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. And we had mentioned some tools in your tool belt, as a buyer or seller. Like, buying down the interest rate is just one of those things. We've had a number of clients, that took advantage of this opportunity, even when interest rates were at 7%, and their mortgage interest rate is the same as it is now. And they didn't wait, right? So as you look at this, and if you think, well, okay, as the real estate as an asset class will appreciate, right? And if I know how to navigate the market and get a lower interest rate, even now at 6.5%, like, there's still opportunity out there, to go get a 6.25, right?
Yep.
Or maybe even lower of an interest rate if you're buying down the rate and being creative, with the seller. Now, that only works in certain scenarios, right? And that's certain markets may be less competitive, certain areas of certain markets may be less competitive, so it's always good to sit down and have that conversation about, like, what is it that you're trying to accomplish. And that's why, we sound like a broken record all the time, but everybody's situation is different,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everybody's home selling, buying experience, what they're trying to accomplish is unique to them.
Yep.
Right? There's some people that need to get out of homes quickly, right? Maybe it's death, divorce, right? Those type of things. And highest price isn't always the driving factor in all of those, right? So knowing that from a seller's perspective, you might be more amped to lower the price right out of the get-go, right? Price it to move, right? Which may generate a lot more activity on the home. You might get over asking for it, but you also might just sell it quickly, which is the prime intent of pricing your home accordingly.
Yep.
Right. And as a buyer, if you know these type of things, right, have your agent ask these questions, right? We don't ever write an offer on a home that, we haven't asked, what do the sellers need?
What's the
Do
most
they need
important thing?
occupancy? Do they need anything besides a boatload of cash at their doorstep? Right. It's the most obvious question, but it boggles my mind that we're in an industry where most agents just fail to ask that simple question.
Yep.
Right. And we've seen it time and time again on our listings. It's crazy to me. Right. So I'm going to continue shouting it from the rooftop. It's all about who you know and who you work with in real estate to make sure you ask the right questions. But let's dive into these predictions, because I think it's, we've talked a lot about what this means for home buyers and sellers, from a creative approach and a unique, everybody's unique in the way that they're going about buying and selling. But I wanted to dive into this because, and Juan's seeing some of these for the first time. I just picked these articles up as they just came out recently, but we're going to dive into this, and let's start with Redfin's predictions.
Oh, predictions.
Yes. So in the prediction world, the one thing we know is true about all predictions is that they're always wrong. Or they will always change in some fashion,
Mm-hmm.
in the coming months. So Redfin's predicting, in 2024, it'll be the year that the home buyer catches a break, right? And what this is really talking about is the interest rates coming down. Okay, so as interest rates come down, they're predicting that buyers are going to be a little bit more amped to get off the sidelines and make this a reality. So with home prices falling and new listings rising, okay, this is going to be interesting because we're in a very low inventory market. So I'm curious, in terms of Redfin, how they look at new listings and if this is going to generate a lot more people to get out of what we call the lock-in effect. I've talked about this before. The lock-in effect is when, essentially somebody with a 2 to 3 or 4% interest rate really has no incentive to move because it's more costly for them to sell their current house, get out of that mortgage rate, and take a higher mortgage rate on a new home.
Yep.
So interesting to see what the new listings will be here, if this will cause a lot more sellers to actually make a move that are sitting on 3% or 4% interest rates, because those things are like gold. Those are gold in today's market. If you have one of those things, you are sitting on a gold mine. All right. So here, prediction number one. Take a look at this. Prediction number one: home prices will fall 1%. And as we go through this, I kind of want to do you agree with this? Do you not agree with it? What do you think is going to happen here?
You should compare this to last year's predictions that they adjusted 4 times during the year, by the way, because the beginning of the year, everybody said that we were going to be down 6%, 4%. There was some range between 3 points and 6 points that we were seeing. That was everybody's predictions on the year. But us in the industry, we're sitting here looking like, where are we going to get the houses to sell? Right? The lock-in effect that Eric's talking about, because we all could see it. Our clients are like, we're not going anywhere. We have a 2.75% mortgage. We're not going anywhere. Don't call us this year, Juan.
Yep.
Don't call me. I ain't leaving.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So this is national, right? So as an overall, there are markets that do have price decreases right now, right? Home values are falling. California is one of those states.
Austin, Texas is down almost 20%. 19.6
Yep.
is the last thing I saw.
Yeah, and I look at those. There's a ton of people who bought recently in those markets that are going to be a little bit underwater on that. No big deal if you're not planning on going anywhere, but if you do, if you are in distress and you need to sell, they're going to take a loss on it. But those markets have gone up so significantly over the past couple of years. When you look at it, is it really prices coming down, or is it just actually correcting to where it needed to be in the first place? Because prices went up so steeply. So that'll be interesting as it levels out. Here in Southeast Michigan, we're actually seeing prices continue to rise. Right. So I think over 2024, we may see it being flat, and 1% is basically flat, in terms of a decrease. But I think this is kind of spot on. I think we're probably at a good pricing market right now that will remain consistent. But I do think in certain markets here in Southeast Michigan, we're also going to see price increases, from a different perspective, just because of the competitiveness that I think is coming down the market.
Yep.
So let me try to get this out of here. Those thing's frozen. Hold on.
Uh-oh. I can pull stuff if you need me to also.
Yeah, let me try to pull it back up. Just froze out on me real quick.
Yeah, and you're talking about where this is going to come from as well, Eric. So I just want to briefly touch on that, because with the drop in interest rates, like you were discussing there, new mortgage applications increased 21% in the month of November. So this is something to keep in mind, y'all. The housing industry is highly affected. It's super sensitive to interest rate increases and decreases. You got a lot of people sitting on the sideline who've been waiting for rates to go down, and it's happening, and they're jumping back in the game. 21% increase year over year on mortgage applications in the month of November.
Yep. It's definitely showing in the market. We're seeing it and feeling it. So, okay, well, prices are gonna, potentially fall by 1%. So that's Redfin's prediction, number one. Number two is new listings will tick up. Home prices will fall because supply will rise more than demand. Supply will rise more than demand. That's interesting. We have a huge shortage right now and a huge lack of supply. So is Redfin saying that the supply is going to outpace demand?
That's what I'm reading there. I don't agree with that comment. I do believe inventory is going to rise. We're already seeing it. I think it'll continue to rise as seller. If we can get down into the mid fives, I think we're going to see I think we're going to see a balanced market. It's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be busy, but it won't be stupid, for lack of a better term, right? Where people are just getting crazy. The best houses are going to go multiple offers again. We're already seeing that.
Yep. We're seeing it every single day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I want to stress that, like, even though we have low inventory and rates are high, multiple offers have not stopped in most of the markets here in Southeast Michigan.
On the best houses.
Yeah.
Yep. We do want to keep that in perspective. It's not like we're not trying to scare anybody, right? Because if it's a dog, it's laying there.
Yep. Okay. Well, so they're saying that we're going to get more listings for sure. Prediction number three, home sales will increase and end the year up 5%. All right. So we're talking about being on pace with 4.1 million, even 4.5 million by the fourth quarter. So they have a chart here on what we see on pace. All right. For Q1, we're going to get to 4.1, 4.2, up to 4.3, and then up to 4.5 in Q4. So this is a big jump from, ending out Q4 here in 2023 at 3.8 million.
Yep.
So this is a huge surge coming into Q1 in 2024. Okay. This I do agree with. I do agree with the home sales going up. I think a lot more people are going to get off their butts and start moving.
Yeah, sales specifically. So I agree. I think we're going to see more people move this year.
Yep.
By like 500,000 more. It's going to be a lot.
Yep. So prediction number 4, mortgage rates will steadily decline, but remain above 6%. Okay. So they're saying it's not even going to get below 6%.
I don't agree with that. I think we're going to get high fives by the end of maybe summer. It could be Q3, but I think we're going to touch those. I mean, we're sitting at what, 6 point. Hold on. Let's keep this in perspective again. The 30-year fixed conventional 6.64. The 30-year FHA is 6.10 today. All it takes is one good day, and we're going to be below sixes.
Yeah, we're at 6.64 right now. So,
yep.
Well, that'll be interesting. I agree with you. I think we're gonna get below 5. I don't think it's gonna stay there. I think we're probably gonna, be in the high 5s, low 6s. I don't think we're ever gonna see any 4s this year.
No, we should never see 3 or 4% again unless the world is upside down again, because it ruins the economy. Period.
Yep. All right. So this chart is the mortgage rates. They think, right now 7. We're actually below this. So this is already out of date. Like they're saying in Q1, mortgage rates are actually going to go up, right, at an average of 7%, which we're already seeing signs that that's going the opposite direction. But as the year goes on, it's going to trickle off. So if you look at this mortgage interest rate as an inverse to this, right, as the rates go down, we sell more, right, which makes logical sense from a rate perspective. It makes it more affordable. People are going to enter the market as rates go down. So that all makes logical sense to me, in terms of what they're trying to articulate here. But I think they're missing one key component here, which is they don't have any predictions on the supply. All right. And if this is actually going to happen, right, if there's actually going to be a balanced supply and demand in the market, because regardless of what the interest rates have done in 2023, we've had low supply, which is complete opposite of what you would think. And interest rates have stayed high and home prices have actually risen as a result.
Yep.
So definitely interesting. Now this one kind of cracked me up because Redfin, okay, and if you don't know this about Redfin, they are a real estate broker, okay, so they abide by all NAR regulations. They're part of NAR, and they have predicted changes will be coming to the real estate industry, and they're referencing the litigation that is taking place. Not going to go into depth on that in this live, but they basically said there's going to be a lot more buyers working directly with the listing agent.
Well, they're pulling out of the National Association of Realtors, and they're not requiring their agents to be members of that board. So that is why they're predicting that change, because they're part of it. And Eric gave some insight there, but I want to circle back around here. Redfin is a marketing agency that parades as a real estate brokerage. There's a difference between the two. Right? I want to make sure that we're very clear in these things.
I was being political.
Yeah, well, we don't need to do that. Let's be real. Like, same thing with Zillow, y'all. Like, Zillow is the most visited real estate site on the planet, and that's awesome. But Zillow started as Trulia, just so if you guys can remember the Wayback Machine, right? Or sorry, they were independent. They purchased Trulia, and then everything becomes Zillow Corporation. Well, that is a marketing agency, and the way that company makes money is that they charge real estate agents to connect you to real estate agents. They charge them it used to be a fee, a monthly fee. Agents would pay, X amount of dollars to show up in your search. When you go click on a house and you see, hey, connect with an agent, those agents paid to be there. But now, over the last few years, Zillow decided they wanted to become a brokerage so they could get the information that real estate agents provide. All of those houses you see are provided by real estate brokerages, and they had to become a member of the National Association of Realtors, and they needed a license so then they can turn around and charge other agents a commission. So I want to make sure that we're being transparent, right? It's companies like this that write hit pieces like this that don't share the whole truth, which is, oh, we make money, by the way, by charging agents to connect you to them. We get 35% of the home that you close. They get 35% of the commission. So companies like Zillow, right, have a mortgage brokerage license. I'm sorry, have a brokerage license, so they can charge real estate agents a commission to connect you. And when you buy a house, they get paid on the back end. Because think of it this way: how in the world does Zillow make money? When you're on Zillow, you don't see ads for Meyer Grocer. You don't see ads for Ford Motor Company, right? Right, Eric? Last time I checked, when you're searching for houses, your feed looking at homes is undisrupted, right? So whenever something is free, guess who is the product?
The user. Your
Right?
Data, your
That's
information.
right.
Just like Facebook, just like Instagram.
Yeah. So I'm sharing this because that's how they make their money. So when I see stuff like this, yes, of course it's going to change, because you guys are trying to change the industry. So anyways, I digress. Anybody who's ever had a great real estate experience, who's had somebody guide them through the process that saved their behind from something massive, they understand the value, period. Right? Just like, can I change my own toilet if I had to? Yep. Do I want to, or am I going to? Nope. Happy to pay it. Right. And I know somebody's on here right now going, well, they don't make 3%. No, their margin is much better than mine, actually. Yeah. Just so we're on the same page, a $3 gasket and a $3.50 service, those things are entirely different. Right. But guess who is happy to pay that? Me. Right. So I want to make sure that we're talking truth here when we talk about this. And I know this might turn some people off, but this is just the way the world works in respect to this. And I think it's important to understand all of the angles when it comes to real estate. Right. So,
well, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because, this is where a lot of people think the market is going with real estate, and it's companies like Redfin and Zillow, who are vertically integrating, the whole entire home buying process and positioning as it's going to be so easy to buy a home.
Yep.
You know, to go online. It's just like Amazon, right? You click, you buy it, shows up at your doorstep. Except you're trying to buy a doorstep, right? You're trying to buy the thing that you want things to show up at on your doorstep. And there's a lot that goes into this. And I'm not, you know, sugarcoating this because, you know, real estate agents want to stay in business. There are a ton of things that happen in the real estate transaction that companies like Redfin and Zillow, they just don't share with you,
Yep.
right? When they're trying to position this as like an easy button. Right. And the one thing about Redfin here, which I find is very ironic in this article, is that they say, you know, the changes will come to the real estate industry, and they're saying that most buyers will go directly to the listing agent. Well, Redfin is a discount broker. They will list your home for a discount percent. Okay. And they will save you money. So if they can take all the listings, right, and get all the buyers that come directly to them, guess who is going to make more money?
Yep.
That's who's going to make Redfin's going to make more money, right? So I don't want you to look at this as they're providing easy things to do. They are looking at a profit. They are a for-profit organization. You are the product, you know, of that. So, all right. Well, we beat that horse.
Yeah, that's all good.
So, prediction number 6: renting will lose its stigma. You know, I disagree with this. I think there's going to be a ton of people that are going to continue to rent, and it's primarily because of they just can't afford to buy a home.
Yep.
And then prediction number 7: Biden has a housing problem, which could hurt his reelection bid. It's election year, right? There's going to be everybody who's going to pinpoint this inflation, this affordability, and housing being one of the big expenses of somebody's living expenses. This is going to get thrown into the mix. So no surprise that this is on the list to me.
No, I mean, it's an election year period. That's housing always slows during an election year, a presidential. If you go back and look historically, it slows, right? Because people are uncertain and not sure what's going to happen. But I do believe the current administration, red, black, blue, purple, don't care, right? There's a disconnect between what they're saying and what actually people are feeling. And housing is the big challenge here. At the end of the day, you know, you can drive down gas prices back to somewhere near where we had them before, but your monthly mortgage price is nowhere near it, right? And saving $13 at the pump twice a month when your mortgage costs you $1,000 more than it did 2 years ago, people feel that. And that's the challenge that any administration would have here, just so you guys have perspective on that. But absolutely, I mean, they're going to get aggressive in some way, shape, or form, period. Because you've got disinflation happening right now, right? Will we ever get deflation? I hope not. Deflation's not good, right? When you start deflating things, people start losing their jobs. That's not where we want to be, right? Disinflation is the Fed's goal, right? And remember, his goal is to continue to raise prices by how many percentage points every year, Eric?
Who? The Fed?
Federal
Sorry,
Reserve.
I got crying kids in the background.
I hear that. The Federal Reserve has a mandate, right? Is to keep maximum employment, whatever that means, right? Because it's ambiguous. And then the other one is to keep the economy going on its rails, right? But like, if they're going to keep inflation at, he set a target rate. Do you remember what that rate is?
They wanted to keep it right around 2%. 2%. Okay.
So the Federal Reserve's stated goal is to have prices increase 2% every year. So I want everybody like think through that. The goal is not deflation. We want prices to go back to where they were, but the Federal Reserve does not want prices to go back to where they were. They want prices to continue to increase 2% year over year. They're saying that publicly. That is the goal. They're trying to manage this accordingly. Now, you got certain sectors that are far more expensive, right? Food being one of them, housing being the other. Those are the big ones.
Yep. I hear you. All right. Well, here's realtor.com's predictions for 2024. You know, theirs is not as well laid out as Redfin's, as crisp as prediction number one, prediction number two. So, kind of, I'm going to touch on some of the key points here, as we look ahead into 2024. But they're estimating interest rates start in the average 6.8%. They end the year right around 6.5%. So, it's kind of on pace with where I think the interest rates are probably going to hover a little bit lower throughout the year. I think they're probably going to be around the sixes,
Yep.
which is, we talked about, this is a good, healthy place for them to live, to keep things moving. They think existing home median price appreciation is going to drop. Okay, so year over year, they think it's going to go down 1.7%. 2023 prediction was it was going to be up 2.2%. Okay, so they've kind of changed the posture on this, as home prices have increased a lot more than that in 2023. And then existing home sales, they have about 500,000 units shorter than what Redfin's predicting.
Yeah. Eric, can you increase the size on that at all? It's pretty tough to read.
Yeah.
Hey guys, let us know where you're watching from. You chime in on this. If you're watching this later, feel free to connect, ask questions. We do these Wednesday nights. Just so you all know, at the end of every month, we get into the nitty gritty with stats. We're doing it today because we will not be back next Wednesday. We're giving everybody time with the family. But we just want to say thanks for connecting with us this year. Between our Metro-Detroit market here and our Tampa market, we were able to serve 23 families so far, got them in houses this year just from our YouTube connections alone. And we have another, I think, eight people who have properties under contract that are relocating to the areas as well. So thank you, man. What an incredible year. It's amazing to be able to serve, all of our clients, especially, to be able to do it in 2 states now. It's just been unbelievable. But we really appreciate you guys. We just want to make sure that we know that. And if you're watching this, obviously our contact information is down below. Like you said, we love to keep our clients informed so you can make the best quality decision for yourself, right? Eric and Sophia and myself, we're not the people that are going to try to sell you on real estate. We're guides, period. We know what it can do for you. We know what it's done for our clients and for ourselves. I mean, it's changed our lives, guys. We're sitting here talking about this right now. I bought a house this year when everybody said you shouldn't at 7.215%. And if interest rates even stay where they are, I got an FHA mortgage, so I have to be in the house 6 months before I can refinance. But I'm already looking at, if things just stay where they are, I'm already looking at $300 less a month just by doing a refi. Right. So if it gets any lower, I'll be buying down points. Right. I'll be buying down points, and I'm going to remove my PMI in my house because my home has over 25% equity in it already. So, I mean, there's times that are right for everybody, and there's times that aren't necessarily the right for you. So just, thanks again. We appreciate you guys. An informed client is a great client. Right. That's our role. We're here to consult and guide. That's what we do, and we love it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate it. Cool. All right. Made it a little bit bigger. Is that easier to read?
Way easier.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Everybody's squinting. Like, what is that? What's Eric talking about?
User error. I always forget because I got this big old monitor right in front of me. Thanks for pointing that out. You guys dropped in the comments. Tell me you can't see it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. So, so 500,000 units, difference between the Redfin predictions and Realtor.com. Right?
And total sales, the number of homes moved, right? Yeah.
Yep. So, that if that's the case, right, then we're going to still have a low inventory market, right? Half a million units or 500,000 homes is a big deal. Right. It's a pretty big number, to have a variance there. So it's going to be interesting to see. And that's like I said, that's the big question amongst all of this. Is supply going to get better?
Yeah.
Right. Are we going to have more listings at the market? So
I bet
every month, every month we'll be reporting on this, taking a look at the numbers and really, diving in. Is it getting better? Mm-hmm. Existing home sale inventory, again, down 14%. So, I don't think that's helping the situation. Yeah. It's actually going the opposite direction. So interesting how they're predicting this. Home ownership rate 65.8%. So I don't know. They were predicting 65.9 in 2023. It's a 0.1% difference, into 2024. So rent growth is actually going the opposite direction. Don't understand that. Where are people going to go?
Yep.
No. So need to dive a little bit deeper in these numbers, but it's definitely interesting. Forecast is stormy for the inventory market, down 14%. Interest rates hovering. It's cloudy. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Realtor.com. It's
With a
very
side of
cloudy.
meatballs?
What's that?
I said with a side of meatballs. Is that what's happening there?
Yeah, cloudy with a side of meatballs on the mortgage side. So look at that. 2022, 5.3%. 2023, 6.9. Very little change into 2024. So
Welcome to Dad Joke Central for anybody joining us late.
yeah, we might throw some Anna and Elsa in here too. Be careful.
Hey, just let it go, Eric. Let it go.
Yeah, let it go.
Thank you very
See,
much.
already did it.
Badooch.
All right. Home prices partly sunny with a negative 1.7% decrease in home prices.
Interesting.
Again, I don't foresee that
Well,
happening.
it's gonna be local, right? This is a national statistic that they're or prediction that they're putting in front of us here. It's going to be local for sure. There's definitely going to be some areas that are going to have price declines and value declines, and there are going to be areas that are just going to be on fire. That's very typical of a normal market, right?
Yep. All right, rentals coming down. We talked about that.
Are you torturing the children with Anna and Elsa right now? Like,
yeah, they're having a meltdown. They're having a kid moment.
Yeah. Welcome to dadding in 2023. Hashtag 2024 is on the way.
Torture. All right. Well, this article doesn't go into too much more. We're going to bounce out of here. And what I think is really interesting is this whole entire concept of institutional investors, entering the market. And this really goes into, a supply issue as well, right? Like, where's all this inventory going?
Mhm.
And you can make an argument that a lot of this inventory is getting eaten up by investors, right? And I'm not talking about like just the mom and pop investors, for you and I. Like if we go buy an investment property, have a rental, that's fine, right? Like there's not too many people out there doing it. They're talking about the large institutional investors like BlackRock, right? Like Jeff Bezos, who owns a company that's referenced in this article, which I think is pretty ironic. There's a quote by one of the executives there that I find just absolutely like knee slap comedy,
Yeah.
when it comes to this stuff. So institutional investors have been buying up homes, right? So if you're hearing this for the first time, you're like, well, what are you talking about? Like, how are institutional investors buying up homes? It is large hedge funds, investment funds. It may not have BlackRock's name on it, but these are all subsidiaries. These are all companies that, Vanguard, BlackRock have a large ownership share in, right? So if you start looking at this, there was just an article that I found where the actual government fund actually started investing in some of these firms that are buying single family homes. So very ironic. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes here with it. But this is an article from Yahoo Finance, and Kevin O'Leary's here talking about the housing market's on fire. There's a ton of stuff going on. Excuse the craziness in the background. Ton of stuff going on in the real estate, and Wall Street is on fire here, for a number of reasons.
Yep.
So let's just get to this, because I think it's absolutely hilarious. So Arrive, which is, let me see here, Arrive, which is Jeff Bezos backed real estate company. They announced a new fund aiming to acquire single family homes. The U.S. rep, Ro Khanna from California, responded back saying, the last thing Americans need is Bezos-backed investment company furthering consolidating single-family homes and putting homeownership out of reach for more and more people. So this triggered a response. Where was it in here? Which is here. It was who said this? Housing should be a right, not a speculative. No, that's not it. Sorry. Where was it? So what this Arrive company is they allow you to actually invest in single family homes alongside of them. So let me find I had it highlighted earlier, but
it's a real estate investment trust. Okay, so REITs is what they're referred to for anybody who's being exposed to this for the first time. BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, all the big three, they have all created this. JP Morgan Chase, the bank that you and I bank at, and you're probably going, I don't bank it. Yeah, I get it. But like the largest financial institutions in our country and on the globe all are investing in single family housing through REITs, a real estate investment trust. And Bezos is kicking one off too. In the I've read this article, Erica. That's why I laughed when you brought it up, because the comments are, I could see why people would be upset, right? Like the comment, I agree, homeownership is out of reach for most. Which is why we created Arrived.
Yeah,
right.
so I was just trying to get to this.
Yeah.
This quote by Alejandro. Yeah, I agree. It's out of reach, which is why we created this company, for you to give us your money so we can go invest and own the actual asset. And you were just a fractional owner in the home, not actually a home owner. There's a difference.
Fractional ownership. Yeah, we knew this was coming. The writing was on the wall, right? It was there to get it done. So yeah, I mean, this article is just, this was a really hot topic for a long time, because Berkshire Hathaway got in this game 2 years ago, like when the market was insane. They were literally buying entire neighborhoods, build to rent, and other companies backed by BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. So like, this is not something new. And we've had institutional investors for a long time, but they haven't been buying up the thing that we have the least of, that is the most expensive to people who can't afford housing. So like, that is where a lot of these challenges kick off here. I know, Eric, you want to go deeper on this. So, I'm intrigued to get your perspective on this, because like, I'm not a huge fan of these giant companies coming in competing against us. Like, think about it, y'all. You invest in your 401k, most likely. A lot of Americans do, right? They've invested in mutual funds and those types of things. Well, those companies all have board members, that are at BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. They're using our own financial assets that we put with them to grow over time against us to purchase our housing. That's what's happening in this marketplace. Now, I don't like that. I am not interested in any of that. Now, am I for regulation against a corporation versus a house? The answer to that is no, actually. And that may offend some of you, but I want to walk with me here, right? I'm not offended by that. I'm definitely offended by people targeting the people with the least opportunity. That is the part that drives me crazy, right? Those giant institutions are the ones who historically were buying these giant buildings on in Manhattan and San Francisco, because you and I can't afford to build those buildings, right? Or own them. So great, that's your sandbox, so to speak. Go play in it. But now they've decided they're coming for this, and the reason being is because they believe. Let's think about this, y'all. The people with the most amount of money that control almost everything on this globe believe that you and I, over time, are going to rent more. That is why they're buying that asset. 2 reasons. They think it's going to continue to appreciate in value, and that you are going to be able to afford less of it. Otherwise, they wouldn't put their money there. It's not complicated. And they're buying them at the same price as you and I are. So for everybody out there running around worried about real estate falling upside down, that's going to listen. I know bankers don't know it all. We watched the entire economy fall to pieces because bankers thought they knew everything. But you could see where things were broken there. Here, they're buying it at the same price as you and I are. That is the part that should scare you.
In some cases, they're actually paying more.
Right? Why? Because they know that they can hold on to that asset for however long they need to. and you can't. And that is why that this whole thing is, it's like living in the upside down. Now we're going to get into more of this here because Eric's going to talk, bring this up, Eric. Let it roll. I know where you're headed with this. I want to talk about it.
Yeah. So, this is becoming a problem, right? If you're looking at this from a individual perspective, you're like, well, that kind of sucks. Like, why, it means less inventory, right? So like these are the macro things, right? Now what's happening is it's become such a problem that the government, right? And this is the part that really starts anytime you involve the government, things start getting really messy, right? There's a ton of red tape. There's a ton of things, tons of opinions start coming into it. And now the government, right, is trying to pass legislation to say, well, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Real estate investor and institutional investor, you can no longer buy single family homes, right? And there's part of us that want to be like, well, that's great. Um, you know, move those guys aside, right? Make home ownership easier for all of us. But it's also it sets a precedence, right? That the government can step in and do whatever they want whenever they want,
It's a very,
right?
very
Which
good.
is also just a big problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, this is a whole can of worms, and it's a very slippery slope in terms of how this is approached. And so far, it's really just been a jab at Wall Street to say, no, don't do that, right? We're going to impose, um, different taxes on you. We're going to impose, different things that will make it harder for you to buy. We're going to make it more painful for you to buy homes than the average American, average homeowner. So, it's opening up a whole big discussion, in real estate in terms of what is the right approach,
Yep.
right? How do you go about making sure that this thing doesn't get out of hand and there's a free market that we can all enter to buy a home
Yep.
that isn't so regulated by the government, right? And that's the real question that Juan was alluding to, that we need to understand. And we don't
Well,
have the answers for it, but
yeah.
we're getting to speculation on how things could be done, and we're starting to hear a lot more opinions about it, which is becoming a lot more interesting.
Yeah. So, Eric, I think we should give context here. I would like to show the video there's a representative out of North Carolina. He's been very popular on TikTok. His name is Jeff Jackson. Okay. He is one of the people who have put together this proposed legislation to get corporate hedge funds out of housing, single family housing specifically. And here's what I want to say about this. They're considering a corporate entity, hedge fund is what they're trying to get to here. They want the hedge funds out, which I love. In principle, I love that idea. Keep the hedge funds out, because remember, that's your money. That's your 401k, that's your investments. Like, that's your money that they're using to compete against your asset, right? So like, okay, so let's get them out of there. I'm with you on that. But the way that they're trying to apply this, I think it's horse manure, and we'll walk through it in detail of why. I can show you where it's broken. All right. And to me, it looks like a lot of lip service, but I think it's important to share with you guys the full context of it. And what they're considering a hedge fund is anyone who owns, or a corporate hedge fund ownership is anyone who owns more than 100 single family units. All right. So they're not talking about the mom and pops who own a majority, like they own about 80% of single family houses that are for rent. Mom and pops, meaning small investors. They might have one or two or as much as 10, but they're going as far as 100, which to me, if you want people out of it, make it a hard line. Like, what is this? You're dancing around the game here. And then, we'll get into more of this stuff too. So, Eric, I'm going to take over screen share here for a second. I want to show the video that has gone viral from Representative Jackson, because I think it's
Go
going to
for it.
help give perspective. All right. I think it's kind of important right now. So make sure we can hear it as well. We're going to share this with you guys, and then we'll talk about it.
The reason that housing is so expensive is that there aren't enough houses. And a big reason there aren't enough houses is because there aren't enough duplexes, triplexes, and townhomes. And the reason there aren't enough of those is because most cities made them largely illegal to build. That's kept the supply of housing low while demand has been high, so we get higher prices. Lots of cities are trying to fix this by legalizing duplexes and triplexes, but that will take years. Here's why I'm telling you this. What's making this problem even worse is a small handful of large companies that are saying, here's what we're going to do. We're going to buy up as many houses as we can out of a very limited supply and then rent them. They're not just profiting from a shortage of housing, they're making the shortage worse. The more they can take a small number of houses for sale and make it even smaller, the more they can charge for rent, and the more expensive the remaining houses will be. This is a bigger problem than you might think. In Charlotte, where I'm from, we're talking about roughly 20% of all the houses getting bought, every orange dot you see. But in neighborhoods with lower income starter homes, it can be half the houses that are getting bought. Here's how this problem looks across my state. But we're seeing this in cities across the country. Here's the growth we've seen in large corporations buying up houses in Atlanta and Memphis and Birmingham. It's the places that are growing the fastest that have the worst shortage of housing. So that's where it's the most profitable to buy up the limited supply and then flip them for rent. So today I filed a bill to do something about this. It says that if you're a large corporation buying up tons of homes, then for every one you buy, you have to put $10,000 into a fund that helps low-income families make a down payment on a home. So it creates a disincentive for them to keep buying and uses the funds it generates to help the people they're hurting the most. It wouldn't solve things overnight, but it would tip things in favor of families who are trying to buy their first home. And look, if it weren't for the GI Bill, our family wouldn't have been able to afford our first home. We needed that help. Lots of young families do. And the least we can do is make sure they have a level playing field. I'll keep you posted.
Okay. Couple things I want to cover here. The intent, right? If I'm going to let's give this man some credit. If his heart is pure and that's what he's trying to accomplish, the intent behind this is wonderful, just like welfare, right? The intent is wonderful. The execution of it, the rubber does not meet the road here. And I'm going to break this down in detail. And I got another video I want to show you about this. Somebody ran the numbers here on their thought process. But I want to point out the obvious. Okay, I'm going to go back to one section here. Forgive me. I want to make sure I get it right.
Disincentive for them to keep buying and uses the funds it generates to help the people they're hurting the most.
Okay, so this is the point. The way that the legislation has been introduced, Eric, if you go and read it, is that they want to essentially tax each one of these corporations who own these types of properties. Again, a large corporation, and they own over 100 of these units. Then they want to tax them $10,000 and put it in a fund. So a first-time home buyer or someone who is qualified, whatever that means, the government will decide that in the future, has those assets to use them as a down payment assistance program.
Which
okay?
That fund already exists.
This is where this is what I'm talking about. This, like, there is a first-time down payment assistance program in almost every. I believe there's one in all 50 states. The last time I talked to a mortgage lender said this is available to everybody. This isn't the problem, right? And why I'm bringing this up, it sounds like a great idea, but first of all, that's Robin Hood, right? You're going to tax the rich to give to the poor, which is, hey, all right. So maybe we can even get on that shelf with you. I can't, but all right, let's roll with it. I want to get back to basic economics. Our entire economy runs off of supply and demand. Eric, if you and I sat in a room with 50 other people and there was a Monet painting on the wall and all of us only had $1, what is the max price that any one individual could pay for that Monet?
$1. If
someone handed us $10,000 additionally in that room, what is the most any one individual could pay for that Monet?
10,000.
What do you think is going to happen to housing prices if you start giving away more free money?
Well, we saw it during the year of 2020,
right? Which is what the 3% interest rate was free money, by the way. So, like, I know, and you guys, and you might be looking at this, be like, Juan, I understand they're trying to do you good, but the execution of it is terrible, right? The idea that you're going to disincentivize a giant corporation with a $10,000, you know how laughable that is?
It's a drop in the bucket.
Do you know? We've talked about this on this. We did this less than a month ago. Housing prices have appreciated over 250% in Metro Detroit in the last decade. 250%. They've grown over $200,000 in value in 10 years. Do you guys think for 1 second they care about 10 grand? You could tax them 10 grand for the next infinity and they would not care. The other thing that they get that is a huge advantage that you and I don't receive is because it's a commercial asset, they get tax depreciation on that asset. They get to depreciate that asset like what, 24%, Eric? Something like that over time.
Yep.
That is real tax savings. So when you hear stuff like this, that's lip service, y'all. Either he is unaware and flat out ignorant to how real estate actually works, or it's lip service. And I'm going to call it what it is.
This is the exact reason why every single high net worth individual, what do they do towards the end of the year, right? When they
Buy real estate.
look at their money, and their CPA is saying, you need to go buy a piece of real estate.
Yeah.
The tax advantages of buying real estate are greater than any appreciation is just like a bonus to this. It's the depreciation that everybody's looking for.
Yep.
Right? You can offset your taxes and lower your taxable income to do it. That's why real estate is a great asset class, right? Real estate investing is a great way to generate wealth, right, over time. So what the government is doing is they're trying to de-incentivize, that, like you said, take from the from the rich, give to rob the rich, give to the poor, right? It's the Robin Hood.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, I 100% agree. Like, execution of this is going to fall flat on its face, like most government programs do, right? And what the government needs to do is stay out of the way. They need to get out of the way, right? Just like the Fed does not control, right, really anything with inflation.
Yep.
They don't.
So
right?
You're tracking in that direction right now, Eric. So that like he said it in the video right at the beginning. The reason we don't have enough is because we don't build duplexes, triplexes, and apartment buildings anymore, right? The government has stood in the way of that. Local government, state government, and federal government. I can give you a whole laundry list. They've made it difficult. If you want to fix the housing problem, you have to do two things right now. You need to get out of the way of the builders. You want to incentivize the correct people to do things. Incentivize builders to build new first-time home buyer homes.
Yeah.
Incentivize them to build duplexes.
Here's a great example. This is funny. This is great. We're talking about, Southeast Michigan. We're live into our Brighton, Michigan happenings group, right? So this is perfect for it. So I recently, just started attending some local meetings with a nonprofit that is trying to build affordable housing, here in the Livingston County community in Washtenaw County. And one of the major things that they want to do when they're looking at the economics of it is partner with builders to build affordable homes. Well, when you start running the numbers, right, the amount of square footage of a home needs to be very small in order to lower the price enough to make it affordable for somebody, given the state of the building, economics just as in general. I'm not going to break them all down, but what they really broke down was, hey, if we build a tiny home community, okay, like that could solve some issues, right? If we build a tiny home community, what would that look like? Right. So they started vetting all this stuff out, meeting with local authorities, meeting with developers, and really doing some legwork. And I'll applaud them. They did a great job, really putting some legwork. And Jackson County in Jackson just did this. They were able to pull it off, but they had help from the local municipalities.
That's
right. They had to bend some of the rules and change some of the regulations. So when they started looking at what municipality, in Livingston County could this actually be done in, they got to one township that they could actually build. Every other township had a minimum square footage that they could build in that township, and it was 900 square feet. So on average, a tiny home is like 450 to 500 or 600 square feet, and they had one township. So if you look at this, it's called Hamburg Township. And if you look on a map, Hamburg Township, we'll just call it this big, right? Yeah. Hamburg Township is this big. But the problem is that a lot of these areas here, they were not developed on city water or city sewer. Okay. there's only a very small portion of the township that has city water and city sewer tied into it.
Yep.
The rest of the township is on well and septic.
That's right.
Right? So in order to build a community like this, the government says, well, for sanitation issues, you cannot have a public, septic, and it's cost prohibitive to put a full septic tank on individual tiny homes, right? To make that affordable, right? So hence the whole economics of building a single family home, everything that goes into it, in areas like this. So they said, well, you can do it. We're not going to stand in your way, but you need to find a plot of land that is tied into city water and city sewer. Well, that plot of land, right, or the buildable options for that, if Hamburg Township is this big, that is this big. And I can't even get any smaller without, like, if you couldn't see through the hole here, like, that's how small it is in Hamburg Township. So it's basically like, you can do it, but good luck.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to need to go tear something down, or, have somebody just donate the land, because anybody selling the land is probably going to charge you an arm and a leg anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I was getting with this, is like, if you really want to fix this problem, you have to fix the supply issue. Okay. And income. And I'm not asking for anybody to be taxed to give somebody else money who's not doing the work. I'm not that guy. Right. Do I think that there's an opportunity for people to make more money? Yes. But I also recognize that that's just going to make things more expensive. You just lived through that for the last 18 months. Anybody that doesn't believe in inflation, it just occurred. That's why, right? Money got really cheap and people started spending it. Welcome to inflation. This is how it works, right? So we have to fix the supply issue, and giving people an incentive to go out and spend more money on the thing that already costs more than they can afford to begin with does not solve the problem either. So the real way to fix this problem is to fix the supply issue, right? We talked about this a month ago. 15.9 million new households have been started in the last decade, but only 11.9 million homes built. That happens because it takes 18 months from permit to somebody getting handed keys at a door. 18 months. And usually there's roughly, depending on where you build, somewhere between $20,000 and $40,000 of permitting and plans that have to occur before they ever even break ground. And then they force the builders to build the entire infrastructure of the area. The local governments don't build your roads anymore. If you're in a neighborhood, the developer had to do that. They had to tap into the city sewer. They had to tap into the city water. They have to put the retaining ponds on there, make sure the watershed. And listen, guys, I'm just sharing because this is how it works. If you want them to build more neighborhoods, you have to incentivize the people who are actually capable of doing it. More housing equals more opportunity. And if you want those other guys out of it, get them out of it. Don't play patsy about it, right? You should be finding them $100,000 if that's your game, right? Again, I'm not pro that, but the idea that a $10,000 disincentive, that's nonsense, right? That's nonsense. So I want to share this one last video with you, Eric, just to kind of like give you guys a little bit more perspective. I put the link to Representative Jackson's video in the chat. You guys can check that out. Again, I think the intent of it is great. I just believe it's lip service, or he doesn't know squat about real estate. Honestly, I'm sharing that with you. So let me share another video that kind of gets into this and shares numbers, so you guys can get on the same page with how that process works. Okay, because I think that's important too. And then we'll kind of wrap up. So bear with me. All right, this last one is the one. Cool. All right, now check this one out.
For everyone you buy, you have to put $10,000 into a fund that helps a low-income.
Representative Jackson proposes taxing Wall Street every time they buy single-family housing. I was tagged a few times in his video. I hate to say it, but this will not fix our problem. It doesn't solve the underlying problem, but there is some good with it. He proposes taxing firms that own more than 75 homes, and that money will fund a first-time home buyer down payment subsidy. I'm a big fan of expanding access to credit. We already have the existing first-time home buyer program. FHA loans only require required a 3.5% down payment. I used this program when I first bought a house. Expanding it is good. But again, this isn't going to solve the national problem. In reality, investor buy to rent is too small relative to the size of the market. Representative Jackson featured these graphs from a New York Times article. Large investors purchased 21% of the homes bought and sold in that year in Atlanta. And this graph is for the cities with the larger investor activity. Notice that New York and San Francisco are not, they're the most expensive cities. There are around 90 million single-family homes in the country. 4.5 million are bought and sold every year. So this 20% is for those who are bought and sold in a year. In the end, most estimates put institutional ownership at 1 to 3% of the entire housing stock.
Yep.
In fact, we see here in the red line that home ownership rates in Atlanta actually improved in the last 8 years. Also, these New York Times graphs define large investors as those who made at least 11 purchases over the past 2 years. This will include a lot of small and medium firms, including renovating companies who will flip the houses later. I think I can demonstrate that this is not our primary problem with 2 more data points.
Small number of houses for sale and make it even smaller, the more they can charge for.
So this isn't how it works. Come walk with me. We have owner-occupied housing up here and rental housing down here. Let's say investors come along, they buy up some owner-occupied housing and reduce the supply for everyone else. This in turn increases the price to buy a house. And we can see we'd have less homeownership on the quantity axis. Everyone usually agrees with the intuition so far. But the next step, what do they do with that housing? They put them up for rent, which increases the supply of rentals. And if this is the primary mover in the market, it will lower rental prices. But we don't see that. Rents skyrocketed these past 3 years, meaning something else is the primary problem in the market. To Representative Jackson's credit, he starts out his video stating it. We're not building enough houses. Here is the dramatic decline of construction per capita right here in the national data. So how do we really fix it? Local politics are the problem. The upper middle class owns the homes and wants the prices to go higher. They also have the best access to the local political machine. They use the force of government to pull up the economic ladder from the younger generations. The average age of first-time homebuyers was 29 in 1980. It is now bumped up to 35. Now, state and federal governments have jurisdiction over local governments. Because this is a nationwide problem, I would support a nationwide push to prevent local governments from restricting construction. It's simple. Legalize housing.
Pretty interesting perspective.
Okay,
Right?
first off, what a wicked beard bun.
I thought so too. I thought so too. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
But, you know, again, this isn't the goal of this conversation is not to be right. It's to introduce you guys to some things that are happening in there and how people are thinking about this. And again, this goes to the whole thing. And I've shared this before. Again, I'm not anti-government, but what I am is anti-government trying to solve every problem in my life. Because most people who are in government aren't qualified enough to build their way out of a paper bag. And I don't mean home builders. Like most of them, you know, have never built businesses. They don't understand what it really takes. And I understand we elect these people. So I get it, right? Like someone has to do that job. And I'm grateful that people are willing to do that. But like at the end of the day, man, you're not going to solve the problem with the same thinking that created it. And if government is creating the problem, you expect them to solve the problem, it's going to get worse, not better. And that's where I'm getting to it, right? Like, again, our money is funding those purchases. That's the part that bothers me. You want to fix it? Don't allow them to use our money. Now you've leveled the playing field somewhat. They're going to always have a bigger bank account. I have no control over that. And I'm not mad at it either. But what I don't want to do is let somebody use my money, right, to try to compete against me with it. So that's the part that I think if they want to fix it at a government level, they can, but they're not going to, because those same companies are the ones paying for these people to stand in front of you and get elected. So as the world turns, right? So it's up to us is what I want to bring this thing full circle, right? Like it's up to us. We want to buy more houses. We need to go make more money and not ask for permission from Uncle Sammy, first and foremost. Secondly, we need to work on, and I've shared this before. Listen, I know we need more housing, but if you came to me and said, Juan, we want to build an apartment building at the end of, I would say no tomorrow. So I'm part of the problem too. And I'm sharing this as transparently as I can. How do you fix the problem? Right? We all have suburbs. Get out of the way of the builders. Incentivize them. Give them tax breaks, right? If you build this specific product, we will reduce your taxation on the sale. That's a really smart way to handle that. Or at least it's a very simple way to me to fix the problem.
Yeah, I mean, look, Detroit is a prime example of that. You know, they have the NEZ tax credit,
Yep.
right? You have a tax abatement, you know, regulation that comes through. It incentivizes builders to come in and build things or rehab them in a manner that makes sense for everybody, right? And who benefits from that? Well, the consumer actually benefits from it because you don't have to pay taxes on that, you know,
Yep.
for a long period of time, 15 years, and you know, then it's going to go up. But they're at least putting a solution in place that makes viable sense to get people to take action,
That's
right?
right.
So it's something like that, you know, when you and these things can't happen when, you know, cities like Detroit are in shambles, right? And there's like the only option is give people money and give, like, that's not the only option. Like we have to do something else and level the playing field for everybody,
Yeah.
right? Without, you know, the government standing in the way of it as well.
Yeah. And I know I'm fired up about this, but I'm super passionate about housing. I grew up in a broke household. We didn't own squat. My mother was single. She worked her tail end off to buy her first home, right? Worked through the process. They owned it. They worked their way up. You know, my grandfather worked at Ford. My grandmother worked at General Motors. Like, I know what this world is like, right? Like we've lived this life. And home ownership, like, it's the people who own homes own wealth. In this country, that's how it works. Clearing a path for that is, I'm a huge advocate for it. You know, trying to rob Peter to pay Paul, that doesn't make any sense, right? All you're going to do is you're going to rob Peter to pay Paul, and then Peter's going to tax the snot out of you for the rest of your life. Right? They're going to get their money. They will get their money because that's how the system works. Right. So anyways, I digress. Forgive the I don't want to call it a political rant. It's hopefully apolitical, right? Like, I just can't get out of the get out of the way of housing.
Yeah, everybody's saying the same thing. This is not left, right. It is, you know, there needs to be affordability, right? And it can't be this whole entire red tape to figure it out. And like, you know, all these analysts are sitting here like, you know, it's inflation, deflation, like things gonna get more expensive, and you know, people have conspiracies over here. You know, at the end of the day, like when it comes to housing, I'm no economist, but like it's very simple. Like Juan
Build
said,
more
we need to
houses.
build more,
Build more
right?
houses.
And it needs to happen quicker than it already is. So all right. Well, we beat the dead horse here. I hope you guys can hear where our heart's at on this. You know, we're advocates for these things. You know, we're getting involved in local nonprofits, you know, that are helping and at least talking about these things in our municipalities. So I'm excited about it. You know, all of you guys who tuned in today, thanks so much, you know, for tuning in. If you do have questions or are moving here to Michigan, definitely reach out to us. All of our contact information is right down below. That's our website. That's our phone number. Definitely get a hold of us. We'd be happy to help you make that move here to Michigan. Any final thoughts for tonight, Juan? I know we gave a lot.
Yeah.
Right? We're overrunning
Merry
on time.
Christmas. Happy holidays. Again, thank you for all your support. It's been an incredible year, right? Like I said, helping 23 families just from YouTube alone. I mean, we never dreamt of that. And having another, you know, 8 families that were in the process of new construction or, you know, helping them buy right now. It's just like, it's incredible just from our connection here on YouTube. And if you're not watching us on YouTube, feel free to go over to the channel, like and subscribe. Living in Michigan, you know, you'll see Eric's face over there. He's out there scouring the cities. Like, he is all over southeastern Detroit, or I'm sorry, Michigan, and, you know, documenting his journey through these cities, right? Like showing you the best places to live, the best places to work, the best places to play. Like, he's been documenting this journey for over 2 years now. And again, we're grateful for the opportunity to serve you and your families. Merry Christmas, happy holiday. We'll see you guys on the 3rd of January, because we're going to be taking next week off with the family. But God bless. We appreciate everything.
Yep. God bless. Have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, y'all. Later.